Hey folks, it's Nate, and welcome to the Iron Sysadmin open source news update for February 20th, 2026. Folks, I'm about to get angry. Stay tuned. All right, so it's been a little bit since I recorded an episode. I'm going to spare you the details, but I could not resist talking about this latest mess coming out of Discord. If you haven't heard about it, this is Discord's teen by default changes that are supposed to be coming in March of this year. They announced it back on February 9th. So here's the gist of what's going on. In their initial announcement on February 9th, all accounts will be forced to verify their age. If they do not verify their age, they will be turned into a teen account. Now, Discord has in their terms of service that you cannot create an account until you're 13. I'm sure everyone follows that rule. But regardless, so teen is essentially the lowest age that you can be if you're on Discord. Now, what teen implies is that you can't access age-restricted channels or servers, right? So everyone's going to be a teen unless they verify their age using a couple of methods. Now, in the February 9th announcement, what they said was to prove you were an adult, you would have to submit yourself to essentially what sounds like a face scan or a video that you record of yourself using your camera, like your phone or on your PC, and they would use some sort of heuristics to figure out, based on your face scan, if you are an adult or not. They would try to estimate your age, and then they would set you as an adult or not an adult. The alternative would be that you could upload an image of your government-issued photo ID. So all is well and good, right? Well, except that that's kind of sensitive data, right? A lot of people don't want an image of their face stored on a platform like Discord. A lot of people on Discord are kids, right? So maybe they're rightfully teen, but what they're going to do is they're going to scan their face. Their face, this image of their face or this image of their ID is now, on Discord's servers. There was so much backlash to their statement on February 9th that they released a second statement that basically said, wait, don't worry, it's fine. For a lot of users, we're going to estimate your age based on an AI analysis of the way that you chat on Discord. And because of that, we're going to already know what your age is, and you probably won't even have to verify. So great, they already know your age, right? But wait, did they just say that they've been shadow surveilling us the whole time that we've been on Discord so that they could do things like figure out what our age is? What else are they pulling out of that data? Are they figuring out like what lifestyle we lead? What kind of hobbies we have? How much of that data how much are they gleaning from how we chat with people on Discord? I'm not sure I'm very comfortable with that either. And let's go back to that facial ID situation, right? They say that they're not going to save these images. They're not going to save your photo ID. They're not going to save this scan or whatever of your face or these videos of your face that they're using to identify your age. So don't worry. We're not going to keep any of that data. But they also mention that they'll be leveraging this third-party vendor called Persona, which apparently has links to Palantir. Have you heard of Palantir? Apparently, Palantir is like this huge surveillance company that has been working with the U.S. government to help them do things like, identify the nationality of people to target for deportations. What? Okay. So they're leveraging Persona in order to validate these pictures and videos to try to figure out what age people are. What does Persona have to say about their own data retention policies? Are they going to be keeping these statistics? Are they going to be keeping this age and name and picture information that is now tied to every Discord user? Some experts are saying that their data retention policies are quite a bit murkier than Discord's are. So I don't know if I'm very comfortable with any of this. Folks, I got to tell you, this pisses me off. Because Discord is not the first company to pull this kind of crap, right? Time and time again, we have cases where a company like Discord or like Mozilla or like Meta, or just name one. There's you can find news articles for so many major companies that have tried to do something. They tie it to something like child safety, or they tie it to something like, something that seems like the public good. And then what they want to do is trample our freaking rights and privacy. And then when we all get justifiably angry about it, they roll it back just a smidge and they tell you, look, we've heard you. We're going to do things differently so that your rights and privacy are not trampled upon. But really what they're doing is just trampling on them in a different way. And we all just open up our arms and say, oh, look how great they are. And then we go back to business as usual. Folks, I am getting sick and tired of this. Sick and tired of companies just abusing us like this. Meanwhile, this whole time, there have been open source, privacy-aware alternatives to Discord that have existed forever. Literally, when everybody was moving from Slack to Discord, I was the guy going, hey, why don't we try Matrix? Nobody wants to. Nobody wants to. You know why? Because Matrix isn't polished enough. Matrix isn't friendly enough for the normies. Matrix isn't this, Matrix isn't that. But here we are once again with a company that has decided to capitalize on profits over people, and here we are. Everybody's angry. And you know what? I bet 80%, 90% of Discord's user base doesn't care. They just stay there, they do their face scan, and they continue with business as usual. Folks, we have to draw a line somewhere. Okay. Let's move on to some more positive news. Okay, our next article is about Mastodon, which, believe me, after that whole kerfuffle, I'd rather talk about a decentralized and free and open platform. Okay, so Mastodon, one of their biggest problems is adoption. Okay, there was a mass exodus of Twitter on E-Day. And a lot of people landed on Mastodon. A lot of people landed on Blue Sky. A lot of people that landed on Mastodon poked their head in, looked around a little bit, and noped their way out of there because the platform did not feel friendly enough to them. Now, there were a number of reasons for that, but one of those was the onboarding procedure. And that onboarding procedure today is still kind of ugly, right? If you tell someone, hey, you should try Mastodon, and they start looking around for how to join Mastodon, it gets real deep real quick. When you start thinking about like, well, what server do I join? What does it mean if I join a server? What if my friends are on a different server? What if topics that I care about are talked about mainly on other servers? I'm here to tell you that it's really not that important which server you pick. So, if you're really worried about that, take it from me. It's really not that bad. I run my own server of basically just me. And I participate in the Fediverse just fine. I don't need to be on one of these mega instances, but I digress. The folks behind Mastodon have decided that they are going to try to improve that very mechanism. And they've announced some upcoming updates. Things like a redesigned view for profiles that will help showcase creators' work. So this could help to attract folks like creators to the platform. Email notifications for maybe folks who say you don't have a Mastodon account but you still want to follow somebody. You can sign up for email notifications when that person shares something. Now, you could say, well, that's not actually helping Mastodon adoption, but it kind of is. It makes it easier for that creator to have a home on Mastodon and have people be able to follow them without having Mastodon accounts, which is kind of cool. Email isn't really the best way to get that done, but it's something. What else do we have? But it also means that as these people are receiving updates from a Mastodon instance, they may feel compelled to want to join the instance so they can now actually interact with that creator. So that might be kind of cool. An improved onboarding experience, and I think this is actually kind of a good thing. It's supposed to ease that server choice experience where it'll help guide you into a Mastodon instance instead of leaving you sort of in the wild to pick one yourself. And on top of that, They want to try to start steering people towards smaller instances instead of everybody landing on these big mega instances, because those mega instances, they kind of go against the whole idea of what decentralization is all about. Because if all of your users, or a big chunk of your users, are on 2 or 3 huge instances, then if one of those instances goes away for some reason, you have the same problem what happened on E-Day when Elon bought Twitter and all of a sudden all the policies changed and people were unhappy with their platform, right? If the people who run, and I'm just picking one at complete random here, the people who run Mastodon.social decide to change policies, or you find out that they support things that you don't really love, all of a sudden that huge instance becomes less desirable to you. Now, Mastodon makes it a lot easier to move instances, so maybe it's not as big of a problem as I'm painting here. But my point is, these mega instances, they really kind of defeat the purpose of decentralization. So I think it'd be really cool if Mastodon, the onboarding flow starts to guide people into these smaller instances. So that's pretty cool, I think. On top of that, it sounds like they're planning some improvements for the server administrators like myself, where you'll have the ability to do things like consume external block lists, which I think is something that I predicted since the day I started administering a Mastodon instance. Boy, I bet someday we're going to have something very similar to DNS block lists like we had with email, and still have with email, from years and years ago, where there's a list of known bad IP addresses and known bad senders that we do not accept email from. And I think it was just a matter of time before something like that came to the Fediverse. I hope it doesn't show up in the same format that it did for email, because that became a nightmare sometimes. Automated content scanning as well for things like spam and other illegal content detection. So I think that would actually be helpful. As a server administrator myself, keeping up with spam is really kind of a pain in the butt. And of course, they also talked about some storage improvements for some things like media and remote media. So it's great to see that they're thinking about trying to improve the experiences for both administrators and for new users coming into Mastodon. So one thing I do want to note is that these changes came after sort of a change in leadership within Mastodon. So I really want to pay attention to whether they start to lose some of the core values that Mastodon stood for. I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope these are changes for the better, and they keep being for the better, and they don't devolve into, the enshittification that we see everywhere else. And then our last article for today comes from Tech Power Up. And this, I think, sounds kind of interesting. So there's a new open gaming collective that's been formed to help unify the gaming experience on Linux. And there's a link in the description of today's show if you want to go read the article. But here's a summary. The Open Gaming Collective is being launched to help enhance support for Linux-based gaming. The idea here is to establish a common set of sort of libraries and software to sort of define the Linux gaming stack across these gaming distributions that exist today. And there's a number of gaming distributions listed in the article, including my favorite, Bazite, Nobara, and what was the other one? Chimera OS? Maybe I'm mispronouncing that. And a number of others. There was a list of like 20 of them, several of which I've never even heard of. But the idea here is to standardize that Linux gaming sort of stack and make it easier for game developers to write games natively for Linux instead of having to use these Proton translation layers, which, don't get me wrong, work great. And they've been a great boon for the Linux gaming world. But I think it'd be a lot cooler and a lot better if we could actually get developers to make games natively for Linux. I should also note that this is founded by ASUS's Linux division, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, I think that this could be a really good move in the right direction for gaming on Linux. And folks, that's all I've got for today. I hope you've enjoyed my little recap and my little bit of a rant about the Discord thing. Folks, you might know that I'm a bit passionate about freedom on the internet and freedom in the way that we communicate on the internet, and this Discord thing really has me angry. And I'm as locked into Discord as all the rest of you are, right? I mean, you find me a person that doesn't have 24 Discords that they're part of, and now thinking about trying to move all those communities, my gosh, it's a nightmare. But anyway, folks, thanks for watching today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.